Thank you, Madam President. I rise to speak today about the urgent need for the United States to take action to confront climate change. I think it's pretty clear from the evidence, from the science right now, that the following is true. Climate change is real. It is a threat to human life. Second, that climate change is caused by human activity. And third, we must take action against it by reducing substantially greenhouse gas emissions. We have an obligation, all of us, in both houses of Congress, in both parties, and in both branches of government, the legislative and executive branches. We all have an obligation to care for and protect God's creation. We don't have time. We don't have time for cynical political games. We need to be serious about this challenge. According to the World Food Program, over 120 million people face, quote, crisis-level food insecurity, unquote, worldwide. That's the World Food Program. And too often, we don't focus on that challenge. Developing countries across Africa, Asia, and Latin America have been hardest hit by frequent and intense floods, droughts, and storms. These climate events can quickly spiral into full-blown food and nutrition crises. The U.S. intelligence community, the intelligence agencies of the United States of America, have linked global food insecurity to instability that can lead to a rise in violent extremism and international crime that puts the United States at risk. The January 2014 Worldwide Threat Assessment of the United States intelligence community reported that the, quote, lack of adequate food will be a destabilizing factor in countries important to United States national security, unquote. We know that the following is true. Climate change leads to humanitarian crises. Humanitarian crises lead to hunger, death, and insecurity. Hunger, death, and insecurity leads to desperation, instability, extremism, and terrorism. Inaction on this issue, predicated on denial or indifference, will result in millions around the world suffering extreme hunger, resulting from climate-related disasters, which in turn leads to a rise in extremism and terrorism. Ignoring climate change undermines United States national security. Similarly, failure to address climate change will have negative consequences here at home. Just one example among many. A 2015 paper entitled, quote, Growing Stronger Toward a Climate-Ready Philadelphia, unquote, reports that since 2010, Philadelphia has experienced the following. Again, this is a 2015 report talking about just 5 years. 5 years. Here's what Philadelphia experienced. The snowiest winter on record, the 2 warmest summers on record, the wettest day on record, the 2 wettest years on record, and 2 hurricanes. That's just in 5 years in one city, in one state. This same paper projects, quote, Philadelphia may experience 4 to 10 times as many days per year above 95 degrees and as many as 16 days a year above 100 degrees by the end of the century, up from the 1950 to 1999 average of fewer than 1. fewer than one. All these changes have negative consequences for local economies and for the well-being of all of our constituents. Increased heavy rainfall can lead to more flooding in communities along, just for example, the Delaware River and the Schuylkill River in my home state, which places additional stress on our already outdated wastewater infrastructure. Older Americans and lower-income American families are particularly hard hit by heat waves. We know that nearly a quarter of children in Philadelphia suffer from asthma, a condition that is exacerbated by ground-level ozone, which is made worse by hot weather. So, Mr. President, as Americans, we have a duty to develop a strategy and to take action to confront climate change. We must also provide robust assistance, training, and support for workers who may be adversely impacted by the steps that we take. But we don't have time to waste. We need a serious, bipartisan effort to develop a strategy to take action to prevent the horror that results from inaction on climate change. Everyone knows that today's vote will do nothing to help us deal with this grave crisis. Mr. President, I yield the floor. I note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander.